Quantitative research is a systematic and scientific approach to investigating phenomena by collecting and analyzing numerical data. It aims to quantify relationships, test hypotheses, and establish patterns within a given context. By utilizing statistical tools, researchers can generalize findings from a sample to a larger population, providing evidence-based conclusions that drive decisions in fields ranging from education to healthcare, business, and social sciences. This type of research encompasses various methodologies, each suited for different research objectives. From descriptive studies that capture the current state of a subject, to experimental research designed to establish cause-and-effect relationships, quantitative research offers a wide range of techniques to answer complex questions. The methods are generally categorized into types such as descriptive, correlational, causal-comparative, experimental, quasi-experimental, and longitudinal studies, each offering unique insights based on the nature of the variables and the research goals. As technology and data collection tools advance, the applications of quantitative research continue to expand, offering more accurate, reliable, and actionable data. Whether testing theories, evaluating interventions, or exploring relationships among variables, quantitative research plays a crucial role in generating empirical knowledge that can influence policy, practice, and innovation. In this discussion, we will explore the various types of quantitative research, along with their subtypes, to provide a comprehensive understanding of their scope, methods, and applications. Through this exploration, we aim to highlight how each type can be strategically used to answer specific research questions, contributing to the broader body of knowledge in various disciplines. Descriptive research seeks to depict the characteristics of a group or phenomenon. It is non-experimental, focusing purely on the what of the subject without addressing why. Subtypes include cross-sectional studies, which collect data at a single point in time to provide a snapshot of the current state. For example, a survey examining dietary habits among high school students in one semester. Longitudinal studies collect data over an extended period, tracking changes and developments, such as a multi-year study assessing changes in students' reading habits. Case studies involve an in-depth examination of a specific group, individual, or situation, like a detailed analysis of a school's approach to using technology in classrooms. Correlational research identifies relationships between two or more variables, indicating whether changes in one variable correspond with changes in another. There are subtypes of correlational research. In a positive correlation, both variables increase or decrease together. For example, hours studied and exam scores show an upward trend together. In a negative correlation, one variable increases as the other decreases. An example of this is increased exercise correlating with decreased stress levels. Lastly, there is zero correlation, which indicates no identifiable relationship between variables. An example of zero correlation is the relationship between shoe size and reading ability. Causal-comparative research explores cause-and-effect relationships but without direct manipulation of variables. There are two subtypes, retrospective research and prospective research. Retrospective research studies look backward to examine factors that might have influenced a current outcome. For example, analyzing past health habits of people who developed diabetes. On the other hand, prospective research looks forward, identifying participants who display certain variables and observing future outcomes. An example of this would be following students with different study techniques to measure their academic success. Experimental research manipulates one or more variables to observe the effect on other variables, establishing causation. There are subtypes of experimental research. True experimental research employs random assignment of participants to control and experimental groups, ensuring high validity. An example of this is clinical trials for new drugs with randomized participant groups. Pre-experimental research contains only one group or lacks a control group, limiting the conclusions that can be drawn. An example of this is a single class tested before and after introducing a new teaching method. The post-test only design measures outcomes only after the treatment. For instance, testing the performance of a new teaching method by assessing final exam scores. The pre-test post-test design includes measurements both before and after the treatment. An example of this is measuring students' knowledge before and after a science workshop. Quasi-experimental research involves manipulation of variables but lacks random assignment. There are several subtypes. The non-equivalent control group design involves a treatment group and a comparison group, but participants are not randomly assigned. For example, you might study two schools, one with a new curriculum and one without, chosen for convenience. The interrupted time series design measures a variable multiple times before and after an intervention. An example of this would be observing traffic accident rates before and after implementing new road safety rules. Lastly, the matched groups design involves intentionally matching participants on specific characteristics across groups. For instance, you could match students by age and grade level before assigning them to different teaching methods. Cross-sectional research analyzes data from a population at one specific point in time to provide a snapshot of current conditions. There are subtypes. Single cross-sectional studies focus on one group at one point. For example, a health survey of adults aged 30 to 40 conducted in 2024. Multiple cross-sectional studies collect data from different groups at various points. For example, surveys of different age groups every 5 years to track technology adoption. Longitudinal research tracks the same subjects over a period, allowing for the study of changes over time. There are several subtypes. Panel studies collect data from the same individuals at multiple time points. For example, a 10-year study tracking the academic progress of a group of students. Cohort studies follow a specific group that shares a common characteristic or experience over time. An example of this would be studying the career paths of graduates from the class of 2020. Lastly, trend studies examine changes in a population as a whole over time, such as monitoring trends in public opinion on climate change every decade. Survey research utilizes structured tools like questionnaires or interviews to collect data from large groups. There are several subtypes of survey research. Self-administered surveys are completed by the respondent without researcher presence, such as online questionnaires sent to company employees. Interviewer-administered surveys involve researchers guiding the survey process, like face-to-face interviews in community health assessments. Telephone surveys are conducted over the phone, reaching participants remotely, for example, polls conducted to gauge public opinion on policy issues. Comparative research involves comparing different groups to understand similarities and differences. There are subtypes, such as cross-cultural comparative research, which compares cultural practices or attitudes between different countries or societies. For example, we can look at comparing educational practices in the US and Japan. Another subtype is comparative case studies, which analyze multiple cases to find similarities or divergences. An example of this would be studying teaching methods in rural versus urban schools.